President Trump is giving what sounds like a final answer to a question he's been teasing for months. Will he attempt to run for a third term?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican, to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
So who are those great Republicans? Well, he told us.
I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party.
But could he name a name for the Democrat side of the aisle?
I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do. They have nobody. Bernie's 87 years old or something. And, you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people because he was grossly incompetent. But I know people that are unbelievably sharp, and they're older than 87. But I watch Bernie Sanders. He's a nut job, but he's still sharp. He's sharp as he's the same guy he was. He hasn't gone down.
ESPN host Stephen A. Smith agrees that the Democratic Party is in shambles.
So I'm a moderate, and I would say if I had to run, it would be as a Democrat, but I'm not happy with the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party as presently constructed, it would pretty much need to be purged in order for me to assume that I would want to be associated with them and I would garner their support because I don't like the way they've gone about doing a lot of things.
Purged in order to be associated. Ouch. Well, the Democrats are not getting the message. They're reportedly opening the door to another Kamala Harris run in 2028, which we'll get to in just a moment. But, Joey, I wanted to start with the potential successors. J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, both incredibly strong messengers, great names. It's interesting because they come from opposite foreign policy wings of the party. And yet, you know, one's more traditional conservative, one's more populist, but they both fold into the MAGA movement.
Yeah, I think the real kind of underlying headline there was there is no heir apparent that President Trump has chosen. Just because J.D. Vance is his running mate doesn't mean he's going to hand a baton to him. The other side of that is he said probably a great Republican. You've got like Tulsi Gabbard in the cabinet. You got RFK Jr. in the cabinet. I don't know if either one of them yet identify as a Republican. And the other thing, too, is what was the Republican Party before Trump? It was the party of George W. Bush, those that Trump would call almost his political enemies. So what adheres Trump to the Republican Party post-presidential run? And what does the right look like? Is it Republican? Is that the brand? Is it GOP or is it America First? What are his plans afterwards? And it caused more questions than answers, but I like the questions.
You know, Kamala Harris, they said 1, she'd either go into the private sector, 2, run for governor, 3, run for president. I don't think 2 and 3 are mutually exclusive. But it is interesting to me to see Democratic establishment folks say, yeah, we'll give her another shot.
Senator Richard Blumenthal actually made a comment that, wow, I think that could actually be a good run. We'll have to watch. I think she's great. I'm like, great. She lost badly
all
in
7
November.
states.
Yeah, so, I mean, they've got a messaging problem, a brand problem. David Hogg, who's the DNC vice chair, was on MSNBC over the weekend, and he admitted, he goes, we've got a complete, mess when it comes to getting what we want to put out there. But if it's going to be Kamala Harris in 2028, I think that would be the biggest mistake that they could make. I'm sure the Republicans would love it. By the way, that Meet the Press interview, did you notice how many times Donald Trump mentioned Marco Rubio?
He likes him a lot.
Yeah. That really, I thought was very telling in that interview.
You know, Lisa, you have in Hillary Clinton, someone who won the popular vote, lost the election. You have someone who beat Kamala Harris in the electoral vote count only by 1. And yet I'm interested that Democrats shut the door on her. Dick Durbin said it's time to move on. John Tester discouraged her from running. Senator Martin Heinrich said it'd be a mistake for Clinton to run. So everyone's like done with Clinton, who outperformed Kamala, but we'll give Kamala another shot.
Well, yeah, and what donor would be delusional enough to give Kamala Harris money after her burn rate when she ran for president, wasting through all that money? It's interesting, Kayleigh, because right now we're seeing this generational divide within the Democrat Party, also an ideological divide as well.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see this play out in the 2028 presidential election. I suspect they're going to have a very, very crowded primary, probably like Republicans did in 2016 with the 17 different candidates. And what's interesting when you have that kind of dynamic is it allowed someone like Donald Trump to be seen because he has such a different personality, because he's so different than the other candidates on the stage. So what kind of environment with the Democrats in 2028, who emerges in that environment? Could you have sort of an outsider or a dark horse candidate? I don't know, but this is all going to be very interesting to watch.
Harris.
Look, he comes out as kingmaker, Donald Trump. And that might speak to the issue of why Democrats are trying to destroy everything that this president does. Because he gets another 8 years potentially then. It won't be him, but he'll come out of the successes. If he can continue to have deliverables, he'll come out with successes and be a kingmaker. He'll be able to say if it's Rubio, if it's whatever, and then back that candidate. That makes that candidate really hard to beat if you don't have your stuff together on the left.
He talked about his legacy during that interview. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Although it does kind of make the 2028 hats pretty funny because it's all just
Yes.
for the trolls.
Yeah.
Well, you can put the 8, like the 2028, in the great, like to make it great. Never mind.
I will
I'm
tell
not
you this.
designing hats, obviously.
The only fact I know about 2028 is there will be 2 open primaries, and that is the thing dreams are made of for nerds like me.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.